All right, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is the next session for today. It is called Parking Data Analytics Beyond the What, When and How. Please enjoy.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I won't hold you up too long. It's good to see that Adelaide did keep the lights on. That was fantastic for us in Brisbane as well, so we didn't handle all the diversions. Today we're going to attempt to impart some information to you around data analytics, as well as all the different platforms that no doubt most of you already have in your business that capture data. And we're going to talk through a few different case studies with the team that we have here, and they'll each have a presentation to run through with their own areas of expertise. And then we'll be opening it up to the crowd to talk about any questions that you have around what you're seeing or what you would like to see. But data and the innovative technologies that are no doubt on display in the exhibition here is a big part of our future in running customer service through our parking organisation. So I hope you all enjoy today's session and feel free to write down your questions, and as we go through we'll certainly be coming back to you with time to ask them to the team. First of all, we have up today we have Kylie Giles. Kylie works for the Brisbane City Council and has been very busy in the implementation of their transformation of the city's assets in parking, integrating parking payment technologies into the City of Brisbane. So I welcome Kylie to the stage to take you through what they've been doing at Brisbane City Council over the last 18 months or so. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Good to share what we're doing in Brisbane. We won't hold our Adelaide counterpart to account for not being a Brisbaneite. It is nice and sunny up there at the moment. All right, so better hold this. So what I'm going to talk to you about quickly is just what we've been doing. Mainly, you might have heard that we have a parking task force that formed in Brisbane, so I'll get into that shortly, but the project I've been working on specifically relates and comes from one of the recommendations from that parking task force. So Brisbane, little bit of fact and history for you, third largest city in Australia geographically, largest local government in Australia, nearly 1,400 square kilometres of geographical land, so we're not the biggest population-wise by far, with only 1.1 million residents, but geographically we do have some challenges on how we implement and manage our parking. Annual budget, we have about $2.6 billion to work with. All right, so parking in Brisbane, history, 1957 we installed our first parking meter. 1965 we brought in the City of Brisbane Act, where we regulated and enforced parking delegations to council. 1998, our first pay and display meters. 2005, we started the rollout of the current meters, which became the electronic parking meters, where we implement credit card payments, things like that. 2009, which is the pay by plate. So, a little bit of facts for you there. Mostly mechanical up to the 90s, coin only, really limited revenue management capabilities, and limited reporting. So obviously as we're moving into the future, we're really interested and keen to get into more data, best use of data across our city for our parking. Then we went to pay and display meters, again limited communications, still coin only, no credit card at that point. And so we implemented solar power then, so the meters became a little bit better than they were. Still, we only had the capability to report on errors, so no data, no analysis, no use, nothing like that at all. In 2005, when we brought in the electronic parking meters, we increased our spaces from 3,500 to approximately 8,500 parking bays. This is on-street parking too, by the way. We went from limited data to 3G comms, and this increased our capability to increase fault reporting and also and that included, so we implemented things like SMS reporting for our meters, things like that, so that the customer started to experience a little bit more than just being able to plug some money into a meter and then walk away. Mobile option we brought in 2009. So our stats at the moment, we have around 5.3 million transactions per year. Previous, obviously, we started with threepence collections, so coin, then we've gone to card, and now we've migrated to app. So at the moment, we have self-contained battery power units, meters on the streets. Comms are critical with real-time processing and monitoring, and that links to our enforcement tools. Our officers have handheld PDA devices, so they can check instantly, plate-by-plate, whether you have a valid parking session or not. As I said before, 2014, we established the Parking Task Force, which is a conglomerate of independent body experts and council. There was 55 recommendations presented, and they were all accepted by the Lord Mayor in December 2014. Now, the one I'll talk to you about today was to integrate technology elements to provide a total parking management solution. So there's a few key themes that came out of that for us as council. Obviously equity, so curbside space is shared, efficiency, efficient management of our on-street parking, safety, obviously that's actually our number one driver as council, that everybody has safe access and use of parking spaces, effective enforcement, appropriate pricing, congestion management, supporting and complementing land use, travel demands, economic development, and leveraging technology. So this is our parking vision, which is a little bit long-winded. So it's to see a total parking management solution aligned to the vision of a new world city, which will meet Brisbane's future livability and sustainability challenges. The solution will be easy for customers to use and enhance their parking experience. It will seamlessly integrate with other council systems, readily adapt to emerging technology advancements, and enable informed parking management decisions. It's a lot of words, but when you break it down bit by bit, it actually makes a lot of sense to us as far as what we're looking at being and doing in the future. So we're after a really enhanced customer experience. That's probably one of our other key drivers as a council. So recommendation 17 of those 55 out of the Parking Task Force was to encourage increased use of pay-by-phone technology to deliver an improved customer experience, including the opportunity for meter expiry messages to be received and for meter top-ups to be carried out remotely. So what we did as a result of that is we ran a request for proposal tender process to the market, went to market and said this is at a high level what we're after. So what we're asking for was the provision of a mobile solution for on and off street parking payments, pre-booking off-street parking, the ability to use, we have a 15-minute free project in Brisbane, so your first 15 minutes, or if you're sorry, up to 15 minutes is free. Once you stay for 16, then payment kicks in. And that's for on and off street parking, customer service and solution support, the ability to pay during using a mobile, web or IVR, start and stop a parking timer, implement parking discounts and special offers. So we went to market, we went through a, went through the requirements, tender and evaluation process, we developed a contract, shortlisted vendors, went through some demonstrations. So what the winning tenderer was actually Seller Park Australia, who have a stall in the other ballroom. So they had a product that met our needs. Out of scope for the project was processing infringements, debt management, digital parking solution, and hardware-based parking payment methods. So we were after a product that made the customer experience enhanced, easy to use. So what we ended up with was March this year, we've implemented the on-street, which was stage 1. Stage 2 is the off-street, which we're working through at the moment. So stage 1, we have a app which you can use on your mobile, on any device, on the web, through a call centre. So the technology, the objectives that we achieved was an improved customer experience, easy to use smart payment options, obviously pay only for what you use, so no more plugging the meter and guessing that you might stay for 3 hours and you really have only used 2. Start and stop your parking timer, so you can do that remotely via the web, app, or call to park. And obviously receive messages and notifications. So with 15 minutes to go when you're parked, you receive a message to say, well, I need to move my car now. I've got 15 minutes left in my parking session. We've had a good uptake to date. Since March, we've got about 17,500 people in Brisbane using it, about 140,000 transactions. And we're starting to use the data quite well now, so we can see things, for example, that the average length of stay at the moment is 224 minutes per session. So mobile payments, our vision long term is to increase mobile payments and decrease coin. At the moment, last budget year we had around 14% of mobile payments as the on-street component of transactions. Coins were at 35%. Credit card inserts were 21%, and the tap and go were at approximately 30%. Since March, that mobile payment, the purple segment, that's increased by an extra 5%, which is pretty good going since March. We've done limited advertising or promotion at this stage. So, the lessons learned from the project. Effective stakeholder management enhances outcomes and results, and I think we've heard that already this morning. Definitely a key factor in getting people along on the journey with you. Integration points do require testing. That's probably something that we're looking at into the future for our total parking management solution is what points and where can we integrate and use the data more effectively. And the adoption of intuitive technology difference. So the future for us, here we go, end-to-end parking management system, better integration and customer experience, self-service reporting, smart payment options, new generation ticketing systems, and future technologies. All right. I won't ask for questions now. I'll hand back over to Martin. But I'm contactable at all. Pull me up over the next couple of days, or you can email myself or contact council if you'd like to know any more about what we're doing and where we're going. Thank you.
I wrote a few notes there, Kylie, while you were talking. Plate data, SMSs, credit card details, stay length analysis, communications on the street. You rolled this out pretty quickly. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions around how that went and how it remained a part of your vision to be a seamless experience from a project management point of view, because no doubt these things are challenging at times. Well, I was sitting there, Brad, I think, was smiling out of his face, thinking of the opportunities of all that data and what could be done for the City Council. Brad Culbert is going to present to us today on parking data analytics. Brad is the Executive Director of Strategy and Solutions at Bistech in Brisbane and around the country. So I welcome Brad to the stage to talk to you a bit more about what's possible once you have all this information and how you could use that in your businesses.
Wow, data. Yes, as Martin said, one of the things that I was thinking when Kylie was talking was what a great implementation and rollout. 14% uptake in only a few months with very little advertising is fantastic, so congratulations. But as a data person, I started to think, well, wow, that's a lot of data that's being captured and is available to be integrated and used in many different ways for things that we may not have even thought of at this point. Who would have thought we'd be getting excited about data? In 2015, I think Harvard Business Review published an article saying that the data scientist was the sexiest job title in the world that year. So I don't classify myself as a data scientist, but we do a lot of work with data. And today I'm going to be talking about the value of data and analytics in parking. And by analytics, I mean the discovery, the interpretation, and the communication of meaningful patterns in data. Is a way of sort of summarising and thinking about the topic we're talking about here. Now, there's been a number of studies done in this area with all the hype that there's been around big data and so on in recent years. And one of the more credible studies that's out there was conducted by IBM and found that 95% of organisations recognise that there is value in big data and analytics. They see the opportunity for their business in being able to leverage the data that they currently have and may collect in the future in influencing their business outcomes positively. But in the same study, it found that only 13% in 2015 are actually successfully executing on that goal. In 2012 to 2014, it was only 5 to 6%. So there has been a huge increase, about 210% in that period. But there's only 13% who are effectively executing on that dream or that goal of being able to effectively leverage data and information to positively impact business outcomes. But for those that do, the payback is clear. 84% reported that they had a positive ROI within 2 years of implementation. And I think 42% of that same group achieved that positive ROI within 12 months. And so that's the purchase, the implementation of the software, the solutions, and the platforms that allow them to better manage that data paid for themselves within 12 to 18 to 24 months. So it's a very quick return on investment for this kind of for any kind of asset investment, I would imagine. With all of this recognition that there is so much value in data and the explosion of data that we're collecting in all the new technology platforms, it's led to a lot of hype in the industries that we work in. Around in terms like big data, sensors, Internet of Things, are all things that have been well overused by software vendors and analysts and other people, talking up the value of information and the technologies that are available to allow us to leverage those things. And if we look at that in the context of the automotive industry or the parking industry, there's been a lot of change even within that space. Many new technologies that were referred to this morning are impacting all of our businesses. I'm sure that all of you have a combination of technologies, platforms that you're using to run your businesses and to engage with your customers. Technologies like the platform that Kylie talked about today is a great example of a system of engagement where we're looking to improve the interactions that we're having with our customers. But all these things are generating data, and they're made possible by technology innovation and interconnection of devices. And that interconnection generates more data. So we've seen a huge explosion in the amount of information that's being collected by all these platforms. And the ability to leverage that and interconnect that data together is where the opportunity lies. We've also seen the commoditization of tool sets that allow us to leverage that data. So rather than having to spend millions of dollars on platforms to capture, store, and analyze the information that these different platforms are collecting, that's becoming much more available to many organizations. We're also seeing very flexible deployment options and cost-effective deployment options, so we can quickly spin up a cloud-based solution to ingest sensor data within a matter of hours, rather than having to invest in a capital-intensive server infrastructure to capture that same information. So it's becoming much more approachable, much more achievable to leverage these vast amount of data that we're now collecting. And with all those things being said, I think that people are coming to the understanding, the realization that we can start to leverage that data and analytics to change business models and to change the outcomes that we see. The term digital disruption, which I referred to on the previous slide, that term is another sort of buzz term that's sort of circumvented the term big data. And really what that's all about is, rather than using information to understand what's happened in the past in our business, it's using technology and data to change the way that we do business in the first place, to change the way that we interact with our customers, and to improve the overall customer experience or the business outcome that we're trying to achieve. And analytics is a key aspect in enabling us to do that. So how do we go about that? How do we start to leverage these vast amounts of information for those positive business outcomes? A good way of thinking about it is rather than using the traditional or focusing purely on the traditional transactional systems that we're all used to using within our businesses, to broaden that thinking and to start to use all available data sources. Some great examples came out of the keynote session this morning about community engagement and doing questionnaires and surveys. What if we could integrate the responses to those surveys and those questionnaires with our behavioural data that we're capturing through our transactional and operational systems? What if we could supplement that with personal information that we're capturing through our mobile payment apps to learn more about them, our customers as an individual? If we can integrate their behavioural data in terms of what they've actually done with what they said was important to them, and then overlay that on a series of demographics that we've captured from systems of engagement and personalisation, we can start to learn what people actually do and how that may vary to what they say that they may do. Which is because things you can find insights that you may not have found by simply looking at each of those data sets individually and by integrating them together. And a simple way to think about that interaction data is really telling us the how. The attitudinal data is telling us the why. The descriptive data is telling us a bit more about who our customers are, and the behavioural data is telling us what they've done. The how, the why, the who, and the what. And so applying that more specifically to the parking industry, many of the applications that you have in your organisations today can be categorised into those different areas. You may not have all of these systems within your organisations, depending on the type of parking operator you are, but I'm sure that many of you are capturing a number of these different types of data. And you may be looking at those independently for operational reasons. You may be doing some tactical reporting, looking at historic trends, or you may be more advanced and you are integrating some of these data sets together. But it's when we do start to bring these data sets together and to apply some of the new advanced analytic technologies that we can start to be a bit more progressive in the types of analytics that we're doing and the way that we're leveraging data to positively impact business outcomes. Another way of looking at that is to sort of look at it on a bit of a continuum from the types of parking data that we're used to interacting with. So starting off with some of the core parking data sets around occupancy, our transactional entries and exits, the financials as people pay for parking. They're the core data sets which you're no doubt reporting on operationally at the moment and doing perhaps weekly, daily, monthly reporting of some of those key trends. As we start to add new data sets to that around third-party services that we may be operating within our parking data sets, we start to add and be able to do a lot more interesting things with that information. When we then start to add in our customer data and we can identify individual customers within that broader context, this is when we start to move into the area of advanced analytics to really add a lot more value. So some specific examples as to how you can move along that continuum as a starting point around that operational analytics, using technologies and tool sets to report on each individual data set discretely for operational reasons, moving into some more tactical reporting, as I mentioned, daily, weekly, monthly reporting, and then moving into planning activities. So being a bit smarter about the way that we're doing our budgeting and forecasting, for example. So rather than putting a finger in the air and saying we hope to increase our revenue by 10% year on year, being a bit more scientific about that by looking at historic trends, looking at external influences like population trends and other factors to start to be a bit more accurate with the way that we're planning. And then moving into some of the more advanced analytic capabilities where we can start to look at things like pricing optimization, demand forecasting to get a clearer picture in terms of what we expect is actually how many people are going to be parking with us this week, next year, based on a number of different factors. What if we include weather data into the mix of our analysis? How does weather impact the behaviours of people parking within our facility? All of these things become possible as you move along that continuum, and the value also increases as you move along that continuum as well. Some examples of customers that we work with. We work with parking organisations as well as across a number of different industries using the technologies to integrate data and build systems of insight for customers. So we've done some work with a large retailer recently where we were doing pricing optimization, looking at opportunities to identify small changes in pricing that will have a huge impact, millions of dollars of impact when applied across a network of retail stores. In one example, a 20-cent increase in the price of a loaf of bread could have added millions of dollars to when applied across the whole store spectrum. So being able to compare, in that example, what a particular franchisee was selling a loaf of bread for versus what the national average was, what the state average was, and the recommended retail price was, we were able to identify a shortfall and a multi-million-dollar gain from a 20-cent increase in price. Likewise, in the parking context, that could be applied where perhaps we're looking at parking meters on the street and we're considering what increments of time we want to charge our customers for when they're adding value to their parking meter. Is a 6-minute increment the most profitable for us? Is a 15-minute increment? Is a 20-minute increment? We can do that based on human intuition, but we can also apply some of these advanced analytics technologies and statistical algorithms to be very scientific about the historic patterns that we've seen based on actual behavioural transactions with customers to identify what the optimal increment might be based on the outcome we're hoping to achieve. And that outcome may be to maximise their revenue, or it may be to maximise the customer experience. So it's using these technologies to maximise the business outcome that we want to achieve. Some other examples that I can pinpoint is using analytics to score the individual customers based on the recency, frequency, and monetary value that they have to us as an organisation. So starting to look at their transactional history with us, look at the demographics, look at the value that they've provided to us over their lifetime interaction with us as a customer, and provide individual scores to those customers and then segment on that basis to then use in a number of different ways. One example that we can then use that scoring is to start to optimise our marketing activities. So rather than sending the same marketing communication to all of our customers, to target specific groups of customers or specific individuals with a message which is customised just for them based on their known interests, their known behaviours and historic transactions with us. So using information to be smarter about the way that we interact and to improve the overall customer experience. We also do work in an area around loss prevention, where we start to bring together transactional data sets and other related information to identify cases of employee fraud, which can be very prevalent in businesses where there's a lot of cash handling. So it might be bringing in transactional data, employee rostering data, purchase history from other suppliers, as well as accounts payable data, and using sophisticated analytic algorithms to identify anomalies that indicate that fraud may be occurring. And there's a number of examples that I could reference where we've identified huge fraud undertaken within a number of different businesses in a number of different industries. Another example is around identifying profitable locations for different areas of operation. So looking at doing profiling on what makes a profitable location for our business, whether it be a retail store outlet, a parking facility, or otherwise. What's the profile of a location and the customers that make that location profitable, and for what products and for what price points is that particular location profitable? And once we've done that segmentation, once we've understood that grouping and those patterns within our data set on a very granular level, we can start to look for other locations in a geographic way that may have a similar demographic that lives in that area, or a similar group of businesses that live within that area. So examples of bringing data together, integrating it and using it in different ways to maximise those business outcomes. Now I'll skip to my final slide now to wrap up. I do have some slides in here in terms of how you can think about how you can go about approaching these types of analytic initiatives. I'd be happy to talk with anyone after the session to go into more detail. But I'll leave you with a few key takeaways as to how you can progress along that journey. Thank you.
I'm just wondering, Brad, I've got one question for you now. Do you open every presentation with that quote from the Harvard Review about the sexiest job title being a data scientist? Oh, okay. I'm sure that'll be coming in more presentations shortly. Possibly that was a survey of the people that returned the multi-million-dollar benefit from the 20-cent increase in the price of bread. They found them very, very sexy in that regard. Next up we have Mr. Paul Sidwell from ADVAM. Have many of platforms which most of the crowd I'm sure will be familiar with that capture a lot of data, and Paul's going to talk to us a little bit around what to do with that data and how to benefit your business from what you're actually capturing in the market already. So I'll hand over to Paul.
All right, thanks Martin. Thanks Lorraine and the PAA for giving me the opportunity to talk. I'll just start out by, since you brought it up to start with, the power outage in Adelaide, a couple of other observations. One, when I got, as I flew in and when I got to the exit gate and to drive out the car park, it worked perfectly and I was charged accordingly and there was no issue, so no interruption to revenue, which is good for Martin. And the second one was, thankfully all our systems stayed up, which is a testament to the way our infrastructure was built, so that's a good news story. I've got the job today to sort of tie the couple of presentations together and bring it home. Kylie talked about one tool or one platform that Brisbane City Council are using to gather data and to interact with their customers. Brad talked about getting that data together, consolidating it, and then some of the analysis and tools you can use to derive value from it. And what I'm going to run through with you over the next 15 or so minutes is a bit more of a description on some of the data sets that we sort of see in parking. An overview of some of the tools that ADVAM provides or that are available in the market to collect data, so other ways you can interact with your customers and and engage with them, and then sort of lastly wrap up with a few other case studies and examples of what some of our clients are doing here and abroad in terms of the value they're getting out of that data. So I'll assume the clickers work okay. A quick there we go. Just a quick background and history, so you get a feel for who ADVAM are and why I'm up here talking to you about this. We're an Australian business. We are based in Adelaide, headquarters in Adelaide, offices in Sydney, and operations in the UK out of our Manchester office. We provide a range of different systems. We provide a range of sort of hosted applications for customer engagement, predominantly focused on the parking and transport industry. We've had around 11 years experience doing this. We operate in over 20 countries with relationships with over 50 banks. So we have a good base and a good set of customers who are using these types of systems and deriving value from the data that they collect. A couple of some examples of those clients. Next, when my clicker works. So many of you in the room. A large number of airports around the country, parking operators, commercial businesses, stadiums. Those are the type of clients that we've worked with and who are actively implementing these types of solutions to engage with their customer base. So to start out, I'm pleased that a lot of Brad's content sort of echoes and resonates really well with what I've got here today in terms of the types of data and the role of data. So that's good to see some consistency there, completely mostly uncoordinated. So to talk about the role of data in any business, but no different to any parking business. It's fair to say data's playing an increasingly important role in pretty much everything we do. As we talked about big data, data analytics, these are buzzwords and industry trends, not just in parking, but in the ICT space and technology space across a range of different segments. And I think that the role of data is, and certainly what we've seen over the last 10 or so years in parking is changing. Data traditionally was on the left-hand side of the slide, really to track financial metrics, business performance, measure profitability, profit and return. But we're seeing a change in terms of the type of data that's being collected and what value that adds. So data use in terms of forecasting and and strategic planning has always been an important piece of any business. But more and more now we're seeing a real drive to understand sales performance down to an individual product level, to measure the the return or the effectiveness of individual product sets within a business. And then, probably the main or fastest growing area around data, data value is around driving customer insights. So, being able to understand, who our customers are, why do they buy from us, why do they return and keep buying from us, and how do we incentivise them or offer value to them to get them to come back and buy repeat business. So I sort of break data up into two sections. So I'll talk a little bit about customer data in a parking sense before I talk about sort of more traditional financial data and metrics. But from a customer data perspective, it's really critical to understand who your customers are and how they're engaging with you. I think some underlying trends in this industry are that customers who engage with parking businesses are going from anonymous users who come in and out of the car park. They may park with you every day for a year, but you may not necessarily know who they are or why they do that. So there's a trend going from the concept of an anonymous user to a known user, and that's sort of mirrored by an important trend where customers go from being just a transaction or a one-off, to a repeat customer or a valued customer or a loyal patron of your business. In terms of user customers in a parking sense, or a couple of high-level examples here. On the left, we may have weekend parkers using a retail shopping centre. They may be there to do shopping, socialise, meet friends. They're not as time constrained as a weekday or business or corporate user. They may have different buying patterns. They may not necessarily be 100% driven by a price factor or a location or convenience factor. They may be looking at social media to provide them with insights or recommendations. They may be really interested in loyalty platforms, not just around the parking business, but loyalty platforms around the rest of the retail centre or environment that they're visiting. So they're the key value drivers for them may be very different to a corporate user on the right-hand side, who parks Monday to Friday. They need to get in and out of the car park quickly. They need typically your contract-based parker, reserved bay. They park for convenience, and probably one of the key differences is it may not necessarily be their money. It may not be coming out of their pocket, so they will take a more premium-based product, in exchange for the convenience. For them, communication and reporting may be important. They may need online tools to self-manage, to deliver reports that they might use for expenses or reimbursements. So that kind of self-management infrastructure, may offer value to them. And I think Brad touched on this when you talked about core data and then supplementary and customer data. So what I'm talking about here is very much the value of that supplementary and customer data in your business. It doesn't discount that there's still a clear requirement for gathering and using the core data within a parking business. So this is the underlying financial and performance data that really dictates how or gives you visibility on how the asset's performing. And these sort of measures, the wording up here is specific to parking, but it's no different to, I guess, any asset or any business that's running, where you want to keep track of your revenue and profitability. In a parking sense, how do you track how many people are in the car park and they're overstaying their purchased product, whether they're how many no-shows you have who've booked and paid but maybe don't visit. Ultimately, that drives your view of the yield of your asset, of your product. And that's really important to to manage your management or leasing contracts that you might have with landlords or property owners. So this really forms the core sort of data set. The way we think about data, and again this is something we've touched on in the earlier presentation, is data in a parking business has evolved and changed a lot. Traditionally, you might have data from physical sources in the parking environment, access control systems or on-street meters, bay guidance systems, and if you use credit card payments, you might have transaction and financial data that comes in. Typically, that's put through a pretty rudimentary collection method and a set of manual reports, probably managed on spreadsheets, and that drives that core underlying reporting around financial performance and profit in the business. And I think what we're seeing now is clients are increasingly implementing a whole range of other data collection platforms or channels. Kylie talked about Brisbane City Council implementing a mobile app. That's one example. However, increasingly, there are membership-based systems, loyalty-based systems, online reservation systems that offer a range of other e-commerce or mobile-based platforms to engage with customers. And what that does is that's the vehicle to collect a range of other customer data. And what that does is allows you to get a lot more market-based insight, but then customer-based insight around who the clients are and how they're using your business. And then I guess really where Brad's business fits in is moving away from that manual data analysis model and reporting to having a more structured data strategy, data warehousing systems, CRM systems that capture and and then manage that. To drill down on the types of platforms and what we see amongst our customer base is how are these online systems of value? Well, whether they're a reservation system or a membership or ticketless system or app, the real benefit here is a customer, instead of just driving in and out of the boom gate or using the parking meter, the customer needs to register. So they need to sign up online, and there you're gathering a really rich set of data. They're putting in personal details, address details, license plate, vehicle details, payment details and system preferences. So, whereas before you've just seen an anonymous transaction and a dollar amount, now you are getting access to a whole range of other data from that customer that makes it very, very personal, very individual. And that, gives you, the ability, the 4 points down the bottom to identify those customers, make them known, understand how often they're using your facility, using your products, and give you a platform to engage with them. What I mean by that is a system that allows you to, push notifications to them, send messages, give them alerts, push promotions and marketing information out. Different types of parking businesses use the tools in different ways, have different motivations. So, for us, we sort of focus on three key segments, commercial operators, airports and retail centres. Motivations are very different. A retail centre, maybe much more focused on customer experience, providing a seamless way to get in and out of the car park, whereas a commercial operator is a lot more focused on capturing every dollar of revenue and making sure that the integrity of the system is absolute. However, I think regardless of the type of client and the subtly different way in which they use the tools, they are still all there to gather data and collect that information about the client base. So I'll jump through a few examples of some of our clients and what they're doing. Over the other side of the world, ADVAM's been working with NCP or National Car Parks for some time. They've had been going through a reasonably long process of technology change in terms of how they manage their systems and they engage with their customers. And what they're doing is is moving from a reasonably robust set of systems. They've had online reservation for some time. It drives about 15% of the revenue in their business, in terms of how their customers engage with them. What they're doing is now implementing different types of platforms to really engage better with the other 85% of their customers. So, being a commercial operator, they have a good number of contract parkers, clearly, so they have some knowledge of who those customers are. But for the vast majority of their casual or anonymous users, they need a way to track and report and gather data about them. So they've implemented a system, membership-based system called Park Pass, Screenshot there is just from their website. And really what that intends to do is gather or register all of their clients onto a centralised platform that will allow them to consolidate all the data that they get from their, not just their booking system, but their casual parkers who are driving in and out of the car park, their membership-based customers, their contract parkers, and really consolidate all of that data together, regardless of how they interact. So that's a really large program of works for them. They have some pretty lofty ambitions. Been reasonably public in what they're looking to achieve. They're looking to ultimately make sure that they can register every one of the 70, 80 million people in the UK on their system. That's their goal, so that they can know every parker that's likely to cross their boom gate. Westfield, Matt's sitting in the room. Matt's presented on this a couple of times at PAA forums, so for many of you here, this will be familiar. Westfield, have had a pretty strong program of works around data. They've moved over the last couple of years towards implementing ticketless-based systems across a number of their centres, and underlying that is a drive to provide a good customer experience for their for the visitors to their centres and ultimately for the patrons of their tenants. Give them a frictionless experience. They can get in and out of the car park in a lot more seamless fashion. However, probably the main underlying driver is around data collection, and to gather and capture that customer data so that they can integrate it with other data in their business, and really maximise how they use that. Currently, in terms of the centres they've got, I think over 80,000 members registered, and that's giving them a great user base so far to draw on. Again, a few article in the Financial Review a month or so ago from Centre Group CEO, just highlighting how I think how important that data is. Sorry, Matt. Really a focus on putting data analytics and the capturing of customer data like front and centre for their business. So that's a lot of the sort of comments there are around how do they combine all those data sources together, to consolidate that and to build a real picture of how people are getting in and out of the centre, where are they moving, where are they spending their money, what's their dwell time, and the value ultimately they add to the business. And lastly, Martin's to my right, so I'm sure he'll pick up any errors or omissions. But Brisbane Airport have been a long-term customer for ADVAM. We've worked together with them to use and provide a range of platforms for them to engage with their customers and to collect data. So Brisbane have been, I would say, reasonably long-term innovators in the use of data. Have a relationship with Brad and Bistech around centralised data warehousing to consolidate the data they'll get from an online reservation system, from their staff parking system, access control systems and transactional data, and really put that all together and manage that data in a consolidated fashion. And the real, I think what Brisbane Airport are doing really well, and what we've seen is that they are segmenting their customer base and really building a detailed picture of who their clients are, where's their repeat business coming from, which different types of user segments visit and use their airport, and how do they proactively market tailored campaigns to them. So Brad touched on a little bit of this, but a couple of examples here around marketing promotions for the online booking system that Brisbane have done, focusing on trying to increase that spend or amount of time clients are parking and the types of products they're using. So for some examples there, target frequent or repeat business travellers with premium offers around short stay parking. If they're if they've bought long-term parking half a dozen times, how do you incentivise them to spend a little bit more and have a more convenient service closer to the terminal? And then providing a tool to target other types of travellers, maybe leisure travellers or family travellers with extra services like concierge or valet that that yes will make their journey through the airport easier, but drive a little bit more revenue for Brisbane Airport. So the data platform gives them the ability to understand who those customers are and send very specific marketing campaigns out to them. the last slide before I take up everyone's time is, the next step. We have some customers who are then looking to go one step further around the data, the tools they're using and the data they're collecting, and look at revenue management systems to provide a forecasting. Again, Brad touched on some revenue optimisation. We have some other partners. Ideas are in the room who provide specialist data analytics services around parking to look at historical data, casual parking data from all the tool sets that we talked about today, and provide a forecasting model to set pricing in the future. And I've been given the hurry up in a very, very subtle way from Martin. So in conclusion, which is the last slide, is I think really want to echo the importance of having a strategy and awareness of data in terms of how you're managing your parking business, and really use and look at as many different channels to gather and collect customer data as possible, and you'll drive value from that rich data set. So thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Paul. We could have talked for hours, I'm sure, but some really good insights there. I just wanted to make sure we've got an opportunity to get a few questions from the audience around any of the presentations that we've just seen today. So I'm not sure if we've got another microphone rolling around. If you've got a question, maybe stick your hand up, yell it out. Anyone? I've got one question. I'll kick it off, probably break the ice, to Brad. You talked about explosion of data, big data, Internet of Things, data scientists. If you're not doing anything now, where do you start? Like, how do you get to where you need to be? If you've got a parking business, you might be selling equipment, you might have maintenance regimes, you might be an operator. How would you suggest that the audience start in engaging in actively, proactively using the data that they're already capturing?
Yeah, I think the first point is probably start with what you've got, that I'd say. So, look at the systems that you currently have within your organisation, how you're using that data currently, and identify opportunities to integrate those data sets together to do some of the things that we've talked about in the sessions. That's probably the key thing. And then the other key factor is probably to do some prioritisation and sort of identify the low-hanging fruit first. Don't go for the big win up front if it's going to take you 12 months to implement. Identify the quick win first to sort of break that new ground, to get the foundation in place, and then move on from there iteratively as you go forward. Don't try and do everything as a big bang project. Get your foundation in place, put together a roadmap as to how you move forward, and then iteratively build out from there.
Okay. Do you have any questions in the room? Nobody? We have one over here.
Currently, that's about 8,200. We started with about 8,500 bays, but we've put in a city cycle program as well, so we've reduced some spaces. Development takes over some things as well. So what we did was set up virtual zones. So instead of having a meter that controls one bay or 10 bays or however many bays, we have both. We went, well, here's a street with 25 bays that have exactly the same tariff and restrictions, and from there we went, well, that's one virtual zone. So here's the zone you need. There's a map feature, so you can GPS where you are as well and go, well, I want this meter, this location, bang, start, good to go. And that will probably lead into some longer term strategies around whether or not we reduce meters and coin payments, and then how we promote the project from there on in.
Thanks. Might leave it there. We've certainly run out of time, but thank you very much to Kylie, Brad and Paul. I'm sure you'll be around after the session for any other questions that anyone might have, so thanks very much.